I'd like to introduce Liz Garst. Liz manages a farm near Coon Rapids, Iowa, and oversees two family-owned community banks. She served in the Peace Corps and worked for the World Bank, her family's seed company, and as bank president. Liz has a BA from Stanford, an MS in agricultural economics from Michigan State, and an MBA from Harvard. She was a founder of Whiterock Conservancy and has a long career in civic engagement on behalf of agriculture, the environment, rural development, and civil liberties. And a heck of a sense of humor. In 2023, she was inducted into the Iowa Business Hall of Fame. Her current passion is soil health. Please welcome Liz.
Thank you. I have a brand new title that I'll brag about. I've just been named a senior fellow at the Harkin Institute. 1 year to work on some of the issues we're going to be talking about today. A year ago at your annual meeting, you had John Norris here who presented this report, which is called the CISWR Water Report. When John Norris was the Polk County administrator, he got the supervisors of Polk County to chip in a lot of money to assess the water coming into Polk County. And they concluded that agriculture, they assembled a bunch of scientists, and this report was issued a bit more than a year ago now, concluding that about 80% of the pollution in the rivers coming into Polk County the pollution's coming from agriculture. Since that report was issued, there have been a lot of developments in Iowa. In some ways you could say it's getting so bad it's good. We had rationing of the Des Moines Water Works last year because of nitrate pollution. We've had another spate of really bad cancer statistics in Iowa. And the new bad statistic is it's really hitting young people in Iowa. Iowa has had a tremendous amount of really bad press in national publications. Sort of what people know about Iowa now are Caitlin and bad water. That's what people know about Iowa. Most recently, the legislature's, not most recently, but the legislature has defunded the Water Quality Monitoring Network of Iowa. And this is a really good time to call your state and Senate legislators on you want water quality monitoring. I have a few caveats. Agricultural pollution is not the only source of pollution. Agricultural pollution is not the only source of cancer. And cancer is really complicated. My favorite recent fact about this is Iowa farmers actually have lower than average death rates. Yeah. And although they're subjected to a lot of pollutants, they also exercise more than most of us, so they live longer. That is to say, cancer is really complicated. I want to just give you right up front, farmers are neither evil or stupid. I am a farmer, so naturally I do not think I'm evil or stupid. And neither do I think other farmers are. We are responding to a set of economic incentives, and we live in a system that is causing these problems. My bottom line is other polluters are regulated. Farmers are the ones that are not regulated. And I wish they were. It would give me a more level playing field as a farmer. And I would point out that the biggest victims of agricultural pollution are farmers and rural people. It's not like this is a city thing happening to farmers. This is our problem. We're in the worst county in the state. This is a rural county. It is really getting bad. This is the most recent cancer statistics for Iowa. You can see that nationally cancer rates are going down, and since about 20, Iowa cancer rates are going up. cancer experts say that really what we're seeing here is what happened to us environmentally starting about 20 years ago. So these trends are going to keep happening, I'm afraid. We're seeing a lot of pictures like this right now in the press relating cancer to various chemicals, relating cancer to nitrate, to atrazine, to glyphosate. A lot of these studies are just correlation, not causal. In other words, we can't say for sure that atrazine causes this problem, but we can sure say it's correlated. And although the correlation's not as good as hard, tight science, there is some hard, tight science, notably with nitrates. Nitrates are correlated, not causally to, for example, colorectal cancers. This is a map of colorectal cancers in Iowa. Looks to me like it might have something to do with ag areas. But my main topic today is a year ago, when the report was issued about agriculture as polluting water, a group of people came together to discuss, well, okay, what are we going to do about it? How can we solve this problem? And of course, there's a million reasons we can't. This is terrible. There's a million reasons. Maybe it'll last. This is not a study of what's politically feasible. What's politically feasible in Iowa right now is not very much, frankly. But a group came together to discuss, actually, if we wanted to solve the problem, to clean up the agricultural pollutants in our water, what could we do about it? So a discussion group came together, and the report was sort of, the whole project was headed by John Norris again, who's the lead author on this, but really about 20 people worked on this report, and that's my main focus of today. It came up with some basic conclusions about what it would take to clean up our water. It would be as an approach that treats clean water as a public health necessity, which we don't now, manages water at the watershed level, not the county level, addresses pollution at the source. I'll tell you more about that. Enforces accountability and aligns funding with these priorities. That's sort of the basic trick. And another kind of conclusion of this report was we have had efforts, notably the nutrient reduction strategy, and those efforts are simply not working, as evidenced by the fact that fertilizer and chemical use has not declined, manure from CAFOs is even still increasing, and extensive and increasing tile drainage, which causes pollution, is also increasing. So overall, we're not making much progress. We came up with 8 kind of basic categories of what it would take to make progress, and the first is to have monitoring, which the legislature is defunding right now. We think that not only do we need to restore the monitors that are there now, but the monitoring system needs to be better than it is now if we're going to tackle this cancer problem. Every watershed should have monitoring. And especially above cities, there should be real-time monitoring, not only of the nitrates, but also of chemical pollution. We have very little real-time monitoring of chemicals in our rivers in Iowa. 1 jug of atrazine above Cedar Rapids or Des Moines in the river could do a lot of damage, and we don't know anything about that right now. The second kind of basic bullet of what it would take to clean up water in Iowa is to address the pollution at its source. We need to somehow get a grip on how much nutrients are being put on our crop ground. Overall, they are excessive. We need to come up with some ways to limit nutrient application. We probably want to fool around with our tax code a bit and make nitrogen more expensive. First is fund efforts, but also to promote less use. Notably, we've come up with a proposal that we put, at least for now, a sales tax on fall applied nitrogen, which is really a polluting practice. We need to strengthen manure management requirements. We need to establish buffers along streams. Buffers along streams don't do much for nitrate pollution, but they keep spray booms out of the river. We need to establish buffers along waterways, restrict CAFO expansion. We already have so many nutrients from CAFOs in the state, we're not able to absorb the nutrients we have. We have to get a grip on how much we can put on our land. We need to modernize the master matrix. So that was just a real long list of stop pollution by stop polluting, as opposed to cleaning it up after you do it.
Yep.
Kind of a basic concept. No. We need to reform tile drainage. I'm going to just drop back a little bit and talk about the Des Moines Water Works lawsuit, which I think is very instructive. It was a lawsuit under the Clean Water Act, which addresses point pollution as opposed to non-point pollution. And the litigation question was, is a tile drain pipe a point source pollution? We never got to the merits of that question. And the good lawyers disagree on what the outcome might be. Because in the Des Moines Water Works lawsuit, before we got there, the federal court asked the state Supreme Court to opine whether tile drainage districts in Iowa can be sued. And the answer of the state Supreme Court was no. Tile drainage districts cannot be sued. By definition, in the preamble of the tile drainage law, it says that tile drainage districts, by definition, are good, period. If the state legislature made tile drainage districts responsible for the pollution they caused, they have the power of eminent domain to put in those constructed wetlands, and they also have the power of taxation. So they could address the harms they do cause by speeding up water and delivering nitrates more quickly to the rivers. Tile drainage is a big subject in Iowa. Nobody has a clue where it is, how much of it there is. But the basic idea of our study group, well, let's start getting a grip now. In order to put in more tile drainage, let's understand what's going on at the very least. And then to look at as new tile drainage address the harms it causes. Another point, another general area is we need to invest a lot more in research education and transition to change to a new system. Public universities must refocus on regenerative systems and more diversity in our landscape. More diversity in our landscape. Farmers have a real problem in Iowa. Outside of being accused of pollution, we have the most brittle system. We grow corn and beans, that's it. And if anything goes wrong, like a little trade war or a little COVID or a little derecho, we're just ruined. We need more diversity for environmental reasons, but also economic ones. We need to build agency capacity. Our Department of Natural Resources is desperately underfunded. Our natural resource offices have very terrible technology compared to what's available these days, etc. We need to enforce accountability. I'm not keeping up here. We must have penalties that are meaningful. This is a good spot to mention that idea. We need to increase enforcement capacity. We need to honor the Iowa Water, Land, and Legacy Trust. That is to get a source of funding, but only if it's as originally formulated, and we need to align funding with responsibility. There's a whole lot more detail in all these proposals in our proposal. We address federal policy in our policy. Actually, federal policy has a whole lot more to do with our environmental problems, or could do a lot more to solve our environmental problems than the state of Iowa. The feds spend about $4 billion a year on conservation programs in Iowa. And in Iowa, we're spending 20, 30, 40 million a year on conservation programs. 20 million versus 4 billion. The power is with the feds. The United States has a very lucky problem, and that is farmers produce more than we need. And that has been true for decades and decades and decades in this country. In the old days, the way we solved our oversupply problem in the United States was we controlled supply with set-aside programs, or for people who were even a little older, the land bank program. But in the 80s, we started changing our USDA farm policies and changed them to all-out production, fence row to fence row. We stopped trying to control supply altogether, and now we're trying to solve our problems by coming up with new demand for our crops, notably ethanol. And that system is creating more and more and more acres of corn and beans because of the biodiesel. So that demand boosting system we've got has decreased diversity in our ag economy, pushing us more and more to corn and beans, and also up and up those hills. And we now have several 100,000 acres of row crop in the floodplain, growing for ethanol. The weight of ethanol is about equal to the weight of the soil we use to produce it. So we really are not going to have a great environment, good water quality, till we have fewer row crop acres and more diversity in our landscape. I'm going to switch a little bit and talk a little about my favorite subject, which is soil. Soil is our water filter, and we have lost half of our soil since we started farming. We've lost half the organic matter in the soil that's left. So we're really down to about the quarter of the filter we started with. And soil loss is increasing, not decreasing right now, which is a shocking fact. Our soil loss over decades has changed. We were terrible heading into the Dust Bowl. We got it sort of fixed. We became terrible again as the government was pushing us fence row to fence row. And then we got a good farm bill in '85, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But first, I want to explain why it's getting worse. It's getting worse because we're up the hills and in the floodplain. It's getting worse because of climate change. The main incidence of climate change in Iowa is intensity of rainfall. And the intensity of rainfall is increasing. If you look at 5-inch, 7-inch, 10-inch rains in an hour or 24 hours, any index of intensity is skyrocketing. And that is causing the proverbial farmer gully washers. That's the second reason that soil loss is getting worse. The third reason soil loss is getting worse is because in conventional farming, we're really losing soil quality. Good soil quality is knit together with the exudate, meaning the piss and shit, of bugs in the ground. And we're killing the bugs, so our soil is becoming less aggregated, which is increasing erosion problems. This is a picture, yes?
Are you going to talk about the loss of trees and how that affects the soil and erosion and pollution, etc.? I haven't heard that mentioned at all today.
No, I'm not, because I think herbaceous layer is what really holds soil better than trees. Oh, by the way, this is a picture of soil, conventionally farmed soil. This picture is what most of Iowa's row crop soil looks like now. This is the same kind of soil, marshal, windblown, glacial till soil. And this is farmed with, when this picture was taken at Whiterock, it had been no-tilled since 1982 and covered crop for about 10 years when this picture was taken. This soil used to look like the prior picture. This is called, this soil, it's blocky. The white in it is air or water. It's the sand, silt, and clay glued together into open chambers you're seeing in this picture. 40% porosity. The previous picture, maybe someone could help me go backwards, just so you can compare and contrast. By the way, these pictures were taken by getting a block of dirt, carefully digging it out of the ground. I helped get this sample of this picture. It was shipped to a lab, dried, infused with a clear poly, then thin sliced. So you're seeing about 5/8 inch across the picture, couple inches under the ground. And again, to the next one. Okay, so you're looking at a picture of a soil metric called soil bulk density. Now I'm going to show you the same soil issue a different way. One of these is good soil, meaning from our farm, no-tilled and cover cropped, and the other is from a conventionally farmed, heavily tilled, heavily chemical field. Soil bulk density and soil aggregate stability in water. That's the other, this is called the slate test. It's a demonstration. But if you were to do a soil test, this would be measuring soil aggregate stability. You can see that conventionally farmed field soil here is just disintegrated in the face of water. It's like a pile of dust on your porch. If you pour a pile of dust on your porch, the water will create gullies in the dust, but it won't go into the ground. And that's what's going on with Iowa soils right now. So bad soil health is causing soil erosion, and soil erosion causes big-time water problems. We're back to water quality. Soil erosion is carrying the phosphorus above all else. That is causing the toxic blooms in our water. Phosphorus is causing the water to be dark, which is causing a lot of the animals in the water that could help clean it up to die. Okay? We'll keep watching this till the end of the day. When we're done, this will be completely gone. And this will still be sitting here at the top of the water. The effects of all this. This is a picture I took. In the foreground is my neighbor. It was a seed demonstration site. It was disced every fall. It had strips of different kinds of hybrids and a tent in August and some coffee. And our field in the background, no-tilled since we bought it in the mid-'80s. When this picture was taken, cover crops for 7 years. Same soils. Planted corn on about the same day. 7 inches in 4 hours. We did not lose a single plant. They lost a third of their plants. They lost, I don't know, 13,000 years of topsoil in one 4-hour event. They lost their seed demonstration site contract. And they've lost yield forever in this field. So, Jerry Hatfield says we'll have no soil in the Les Hills in 30 years. Jerry Hatfield, who's the chief USDA soil scientist of Iowa, says we'll have no topsoil in north central Iowa in 100 years. Without soil, we're really going to have water problems. I'm a big fan of the 85 Farm Bill. Back to the federal policy is really the most important thing happening here. In the 85 Farm Bill, taxpayers said to farmers, we'll continue our subsidies for you, but you got to stop losing so much soil. And they came up with a plan. You don't get federal subsidies unless you lose less than 5 tons an acre a year, which was then defined as little circles on my ground. It wasn't thought we were eroding 5 tons an acre. Well, now the entire state of Iowa is eroding at more than 5 tons an acre a year. In fact, there's new long-term research. We're eroding at about 10 tons an acre a year. So this is not a pretty situation. The Farm Bill said we don't want to give you subsidies unless you clean up your act. We should say that now. Hello? We should say stop eroding, stop polluting, or we don't want to give you federal taxpayer subsidies. Right. Taxpayers should be getting annoyed about what's going on. We can make it better. We could use the new technology we have that will reveal, in fact, how bad this erosion is all over Iowa, this 5 tons plus an acre. We need a much more competent staff with new technology than we have in our NRCS offices. But man, those feds have a lot of money to fix this problem if only we, the taxpayer, would ask them to apply it. So I have a few copies of this report here, not for everybody, but anybody dying to read more, especially if you're willing to talk about it, speak about it in your coffee shop. I've got a few copies here. And if you want to see the whole report online, you can go to Google Hargan Institute Water Quality Resources and you can get to this report. I do have a few other things I think that the feds should be doing that are not part of this report, Hargan Institute report. These are my opinions. We do need to phase out ethanol, but only as we decrease corn acres. We can't just say ethanol is no good. We don't want to bankrupt farmers, our economy. We're going to have to do this gradually. We need to update our drinking water standards, especially regarding nitrates. The legal standard is 10. I don't think I'd want to drink it if it's more than 3 these days, frankly, based on new research. We've got to really think how we handle farm subsidies in a rural development sense of the word. Our subsidies are based on acres, and that means bigger farmers get more money than smaller farmers, which is the opposite of what we need in rural Iowa, which is a lot of people being entrepreneurs with local food systems. And we need desperately antitrust enforcement, and we need to get rid of Citizens United. A few public service announcements. The state of Iowa does not advertise this, but every private well can be tested every single year at state expense. Wow. They don't tell you that, but if you got a private well, you should get your water tested every single year, not once. Every single year. I did this. And I have found by doing that, I have a couple different wells at various properties, and Every 3 years, a rat falls in one of my wells somehow. I mean, if nothing else, don't you want to know that? Get your water tested every year. Call your county sanitarian. Or in some places, they call it your public health department. Every year, do this. Only 10% of Iowans test their well. So get your grandma out on the farm to do it too. And my second one is, we can talk about ag pollution's a really big problem, but Iowa has an equally big problem, which is radon. Radon, it's really bad for you, and it's a huge problem in Iowa. It's clearly one of the reasons our cancer is above national averages. And this is what you got to do about that. I've just done this myself, so I'm an expert at it. You get on Amazon or whatever, and you can buy a kit, and you leave it on your counter for a week, and then you mail the kit in, and that costs about $30. Or you can get a handheld device that measures it, and that costs about $80. If you get that after you've measured it and know you're okay or you're not, then you pass that on to your sister or your club, or you somehow keep that circulating in the community, because tons of people don't know they have this problem, including me, until very recently. So please, check your radon in your house no matter where you live in Iowa. It's a problem. The end. Questions?
Liz, when you had that high water, did your neighbor change their farming practice to mimic you?
They stopped fall plowing. They spring disc now instead of fall plow. That was an improvement.
I don't have a question so much as I wanted to underscore what you were talking about. I have a friend who is actually kind of related to me, and we went and took one of these strips, these nitrate watch strips. He lives out in the country of Potawatomi County, just south of a very long line of fields all around him, and his well was 12 plus. He lost his wife about 3 years ago to cancer, and now he's being treated for cancer. So it is a very real thing.
You said Pot County.
Yeah, Pot County.
I have two things. One is a comment. Right now you can get a free radon test kit. If you go to the American Lung Association's Iowa radon page, you can order a free test kit directly. I'll just say it again. American Lung Association Iowa radon page, and they will mail it to you with instructions to send that back in.
Is Iowa the only state singled out on their page?
This is a particular page for Iowa.
Oh,
yeah. When NWD was invited to attend that CAS event for cancer, they were actually passing them out and giving them out for free as a public health announcement. Yeah.
And if you live here in Atlantic or in the surrounding area, you can go to the Atlantic Public Library, and I don't know if you can go to other public libraries in Cass County or not. The Cass Health purchased a whole bunch of radon test kits, and so you can go there and get one for free. Yes.
You can check it out.
I have one right now that
Oh,
I
it's
got
on
in Griswold Library.
Griswold Library. Okay, yeah, so you might be able to find free radon kits. Liz, I have a question for you that came in through the text message.
Okay.
Are Iowans aware of the lie the legislature tells when they use the phrase nutrient reduction strategy?
I don't know what, in general, Iowans are, but I can speak a little about the nutrient reduction strategy. It's a list of 10 practices applied in 10 ways to reduce nitrate and phosphorus. That's what the nutrient reduction strategy is. It was designed to stop Gulf hypoxia pollution, nitrates and phosphorus. It's a really silly report, in my opinion. First of all, it doesn't reach any real conclusions. It's 10 practices applied in 10 different ways, and there was never a conclusion in the report. What is the plan? Which practices in which spots? It never got down to that kind of a plan or a timetable. It has a fair number of ridiculous things in it. My favorite ridiculous example is that it has, one of the 10 practices is a nutrient stabilizer on fall applied nitrogen. And you put something to kill the bugs so they won't eat the nitrogen in the fall. Every other state's nutrient reduction strategy says, don't put fertilizer on in the fall. Hello? Another example of just some of the things that are a little silly about it is none of the practices are every farmer's favorite first very important conservation practice, which is waterways. You go to a eroding farm, the first thing a farmer who's trying to do better will do is put in some waterways on their farm. That isn't a practice, because they don't have any data on what waterways do for you. In the various applications of the scenarios, like the edge of field practices, which farmers like best because they think the taxpayer will pay all the costs and they won't have to do anything. Those practices involve hundreds and hundreds of thousands of constructed bioreactors and wetlands. And we're, after something like 14 years, still measuring those practices in the hundreds, not the hundreds of thousands. So it's not really a plan, which is really why it's really offensive. We don't have a plan in Iowa. By the way, in the Norris report, we do propose that there be a watershed coordinating entity of some sort that will oversee the water quality monitoring, look back on learning practices, and keep drilling down on where is pollution coming from, and targeting the practices to where they really are effective. One of our problems is we have conservation dollars sort of smeared all over. I'm the best getter of conservation dollars you ever met, but I'm probably not the worst polluter you ever met. You know, we really need to be smarter about where we spend those dollars, and watershed authorities can help organize that.
I have a question to follow up on radon. So if you have high radon, because I know a friend had that, does anybody know who does mitigation in southwest Iowa?
The one who did ours is out of business.
There's one we called, there was a number on the test kit, actually referred you to a website. They came out of Omaha, and for our little house, it was $7,000.
Holy Mary.
But, yeah, that's
It's better than lung cancer.
better than lung cancer,
Ours
yeah.
was 1,500.
Oh, wow. Who'd you call? They're out.
The company that's now out of business.
Thank you, Liz, for all this information. It always reinforces what we've known and what we've been studying. But our Secretary of Agriculture currently is bragging about the number of cover crops cover crop acres there are in Iowa, but I don't know the exact figures, maybe you do, about how many acres there are and how many acres we could have in cover crops, and how farmers get really discouraged about it because we're having droughts and we're having dry times in the fall. So and then some farmers think that that's the answer to it all. Do you have a opinion or statement on cover crops?
Well, for what they say the number of cover crop acres are at the state, what the state says, I think they lie, frankly. I think that the last USDA data is a lot more indicative of what, because the state's now saying I can't remember, it equates to about 13%, 12% of our crop acres is what the state says we have. I suspect we have more like 7% of our crop acres in cover crops. What else can I tell you about cover crops? I believe in cover crops. I believe they pay. I don't think it happens all at once, but I think the picture of good soil health, which is my farm, that kind of soil, it pays. If you're a farmer here, something I've done that just really helped me as a farmer is I did a linear regression analysis of county average yields for corn for the last 20 years. And I looked at my yields for the last 20 years, and I drew a line, linear regression analysis, on how am I doing on my yields compared to county average. That's a great question a farmer should ask themselves. And I did this analysis on 2,000 acres and 8 parcels, and 7 out of 8 parcels, about 1,700 acres out of 2,000 acres, I gained yield, and I attribute it compared to county average, I attribute it to cover crops. I think, and about half of it gaining an average of 3 bushels a year on county average. After my 20-year analysis, I'm getting 20 bushels more a year compared to the county than I used to. That pays. That's huge money. I'm getting the yield. But even if you don't believe that it does, you think it costs money to have cover crops, I ask the people here, do you think your house insurance pays? How many times have you got a good rate of return on your house insurance? Never, you hope. You never want to collect on it. But I showed you the picture of my neighbor's field. 4 hours. His field is ruined forever in 4 hours. Should he have had that insurance on his field? You bet. Even if it doesn't pay, it's insurance. Our climate change reality is real, and it's bad. These heavy rains, they can ruin a farm. Fast.
Just a comment on cover crops. I'm a landowner who cash rents out our field, and our renter wasn't interested in doing cover crops, but we organized them ourselves. And with the conservation dollars you're talking about, we're ahead just putting them in. About a penny an acre, but but you can get them paid for. So how do we educate people that
Yes, that's where we
you
were
not
at.
only
What was
short
our
term but long
cost?
term, you're gonna come out ahead.
We do that, and we actually,
This is my farming significant other.
we do a lot of flex rent, lease rents. And then we actually do a 50-50 cost share with our tenants. And in there, we throw all the cost share, all the expense, and then we average it out. Last year, our expense per acre was $1.36 for the landlord and $1.36 for the tenant.
Wow.
My opinion, and it yielded 82 bushel beans, and the year before 265 bushel corn.
Wow.
Last year, our flex rent was $340 an acre. Tell me it doesn't pay.
Oh, it does. Are you conventional farmers? Just asking.
No-till cover
No-till.
crops, and I would not put it in. And how we got there was, how does your tenant get there? Well, first off, if he's not gonna do it, go find a new tenant.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's your brother, I don't care if it's your sister, I don't care if it's your son-in-law. If they won't do the practice, get a new tenant that will. Then what we did to implement it was we incorporated an addendum in our leases. So the first year, and we assumed that you were gonna see benefits in 5 years. I think that's actually more like 3 years. So with first year, we said, landlord, you pay 90%, tenant, you pay 10%. Then it went 80-20, down to 50-50. And at the end of 5 years, we were doing this with multiple tenants. At the end of 5 years, we allowed our tenants to try to argue me out of it, and not one of them came up and said, we want to change, because they were seeing the economic benefits.
Just one slight, for the recipe of 90, 10, 90, 80, 70. The first year you go to your tenant and say, it's gonna be next year, and so this year, you go try it. You can't ask a farmer to go from 0 to they're gonna do all their farming, or even a whole field maybe with cover crops when they don't know what they're doing, how to do it, there's a learning curve.
Yeah.
So first say to your tenant, next year. So this year, you go out and figure it out, I'll pay for whatever cover crops you wanna do this year, just try it, get going. Next year, we're gonna require it on the whole farm and we'll pay 90, you pay 10.
And now they're starting to increase the subsidy, so like Practical Farmers of Iowa has a subsidy, usually the state has a
Yeah,
subsidy.
we better go on to
NRCS has one.
shutting it down here.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the experience, the generations of experience that you have. Is your method of transitioning to your tenants, that available like on Whiterock's website or something, or is there
No, you
somewhere?
heard it here.
Yeah.